Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor. It is the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. Tonight, a very special episode of STS in collaboration with the Jury Duty podcast. If you're not following them, watching, listening, it is time that you do. The hosts, Lindsay Gandy and Kimberly Bell, are here again to collaborate on this special evening. It is a tough story to talk about. It's hard for me to believe that STS wasn't even in the true crime space when this happened, because it seems like it all went down yesterday, but it's been several years. For those who have been living under a rock or perhaps are overseas, Gabby Petito was a 22-year-old aspiring travel blogger whose disappearance in the summer of 2021 captivated national attention. She'd been on this cross-country trip as a travel blogger with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. They were documenting their travels on social media. However, their seemingly idyllic journey took a very dark turn when Gabby was reported missing after Brian returned home to Northport, Florida, without her. Now, the case sparked widespread media coverage, fueled by body cam footage showing a very tense encounter between the couple and police in Utah. Very tragically, Gabby's remains were later found in Wyoming. Her death ruled a homicide. Brian Laundrie, of course, named the prime suspect. And after a nationwide manhunt and following month in September, he is found self-unalived from a gunshot wound to the head. He left behind a note in his notebook admitting and confessing to killing Gabby. And tonight we are joined by Gabby's mother, Nichole, who spells it Nichole for all those out there, Nichole, and Jim Schmidt. And I'm going to throw out the first question, and then I really want this to be a collaborative effort, and we will do this. But the Gabby Petito Foundation was founded by Nikki and Joe Petito, and Nikki's husband, Jim, who is joining us, all have a hand in it. So without further ado, Nikki, can you tell us sort of the primary function / purpose of the Gabby Petito Foundation? And we'll all try to get questions in that you have not answered 10,000 times before.
Well, after everything happened, I called up the other four, there's four of us, the other three parents, and I said, I feel like a strong need to do something to prevent this from happening to other people like Gabby. And I wanted to start a foundation and in some way help domestic violence, help prevent domestic violence, help find missing persons and bring them home back to their loved ones. I didn't know how, but I knew that we needed to start a nonprofit. So we just did it. I don't know. It's just like in the whim that I think that through our grief that helped us kind of forget about what we were grieving about so we can focus on helping others. And it helped us through that.
I was at CrimeCon, and then I promise I'll shut up for at least 37 seconds, but I was at CrimeCon and who do I bump into but Joe Petito? And I got to say, I'm a Jersey guy, born and bred, and we're hanging out at a bar. And I turn around and there he is. And it was like hanging with like a high school friend. I mean, just such a warm-hearted, good guy. I mean, I can't say enough nice things about him. And we were just talking like we knew each other for 1,000 years. And I'm one of these people where, the Petitos have been, and the Schmidts have been to hell and back. So I just wanted to talk to him. Never asked him to come on the show. Didn't want to even pursue that. I just wanted to kind of let him be. But Nikki, I was really impressed. I'm getting the chills talking about it, just about his passion to get legislation passed, to move forward. And I have 3 young kids. I started very late in life, but I've got a 10 and 8, well, 10 and 9 and a 5-year-old. And I just cannot imagine having sort of the composure and the optimism that Joe showed. And I know you share that. How is this possible that you guys are so strong in the face of all this?
Well, I'm gonna let Jim touch on that too, but for me personally, it's taking something so negative and turning it into some kind of purpose. Not everybody has to do that. That's just something that I wanted to do, and it makes me feel every day I feel like I'm gonna leave the world a better place, and that's I'm just trying my best every day. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we say pretty often that if there wasn't 4 of us, we don't know if we would have gotten as far as we did or continue to go without each other, because we all kind of balance each other out. We all have our own strengths and weaknesses, and it really allows us to really flourish and excel in the foundation when it comes to all the different aspects of what we're trying to do. And, legislation and dealing with elected officials is not really my thing. I had to do it like in a previous career, and I didn't really enjoy it. That's definitely not Nikki or Tara. So, that's something that Joe is really passionate about. He's really good. He's very persuasive when he picks up that phone. They answer, and then each one of us kind of fills in the gap in each way. So we all bounce ideas off of each other each day, and it just really works.
Yeah.
Lindsay, I promise I'll just, and then I'll shut up. I promise, even though I always say that.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I work on the podcast with the COE. That stands for Chief of Everything, because we all have one. That's my wife, and someone's got a chief of everything. I don't know if it's the wife, the mother, but someone has one. And my parents, may my dad rest in peace. They work together. My dad was a psychiatrist. My mother's a licensed therapist, and people said you're crazy, and people say to my wife and I, how do you work together? But now it's double that. I mean, it's exponentially crazier. There's 4 of you, 2 couples, 1 formerly married. How do you guys get along so well? How do you function this like adeptly? Because most people after a divorce or a remarriage kind of for the most part hate each other. Seems like it's the exact opposite here.
Yeah. So we always really just tried to stay amicable for Gabby, because we all realized that it was always about her. And we now are working together, and we're even closer. I mean, Jim went and played golf with Joe. He's taking trips with Tara to help support families of murdered MMIW, and I've gone out to Utah with Joe to help support legislation for law changes. We work together every day. I talk to Tara every single day. She's one of my best friends, and we're all here together.
Yeah, I mean, Joe and Nikki actually were never married, but they decided amicably at a very young age for Gabby that they just weren't meant to be together. And
we were 20.
They were 20 years old, and Tara came into Joe's life when Gabby was 1. And I came into Gabby and Nikki's life when Gabby was 2. So we've all been there. And I've said it a few times the first time I met Joe, because when Nikki and I first started getting serious, he's like, I want to meet this guy that's going to be around my daughter. And I was like, well, absolutely, I understand that. And it was about this time of year, and it was up in New York, and it was freezing cold. And so Nikki's like, he's going to come here. He wants to meet you. So, he gets out of the car, and he was like, I'm Joe. I'm Gabby's dad, very like stern. And I look down, and he's not wearing any shoes. And it's like 22 degrees outside. I'm like, bro, where are your shoes? And he was like, oh, I hate wearing them. And we just started talking, and then that was it. Then it was like, there was no anything, so we just always got along.
It sounds like Senator John Fetterman, who shows up to inaugurations in shorts and a hoodie. But Lindsay, Kimberly, fire away.
I mean, I was going to ask about the co-parenting situation before all of this happened, but I feel like, Jim, you just tied that up with the most hardcore story ever.
Yeah.
I'm originally from New Jersey myself, but I spent a lot of time in Long Island. So I know how cold it is. that is insane. But as you can see, we're all wearing our Burn After Reading t-shirts because we're super extra like that. Yeah, I love it. I have to ask, since I'm wearing the t-shirt, and I feel like for me, this was a really satisfying moment. Speaking of CrimeCon, I call this the t-shirt heard around the world. It was a statement. Does this empower you and give you a sense of ownership over something that's so negative? And for me, it feels like it sends a really powerful message. But also now it can support your organization that's named after Gabby. Does this help sort of right the wrong of this message? Because I feel like a total badass wearing this t-shirt.
Yes, it's kind of I always said it's kind of like a silent jab to everything that was said, and without me having to say anything, we could put it on a t-shirt and everybody kind of knows what it means. And it was our best sellers to date, so
I'm not surprised. Not
it
surprised.
is on our website if anybody wants. I made it a hoodie also, so I can make whatever anybody wants. But yeah, it does feel empowering because that moment, reading that letter, yeah, it something about it, right? So for me to be able to go up on stage at CrimeCon and say what I had to say, it felt really good. And I was wearing my t-shirt, and yeah, so thank you for supporting us.
I need a sweatshirt now, obviously.
Yeah, we need it in all forms. But I'm noticing one of these pictures that we have up of Gabby has the same background that you guys do. Is that right? Where was that taken?
Ogden, Utah.
Yeah.
Ogden, Utah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And this particular photo is her last Instagram post that she ever made. So
And
it was weird
Nikki,
because yeah.
I'm sorry, you said you went there. You went to Ogden. What was that experience like?
Oh my gosh, we were all just the 4 parents. We were I forgot why we were there.
We were there. We had a press conference
That's right.
with our attorneys in
Okay.
Utah.
So anyway, we had a car rental, so we were like, it's an hour north. Let's drive up to Ogden and see this monarch wall. So we drive up there. As soon as we pulled up, we all started crying. We saw the wall, and it just something about it made us so. We knew that was the last place that she took a photo, and it was just very emotional. But it was beautiful, and I highly recommend. It's a cute town. If anybody needs to pass through Utah, please stop there. It's really cute.
Yeah. And Joel, I didn't know if you knew this, but the Gabby Petito Foundation, they also have a YouTube channel.
They do.
They do. And I wanted to ask Nikki, what is like your vision for that channel?
I know. I've been thinking on this for a while. So last night we were able to do a live about Missing Persons Day, and we highlighted a family. So that was really nice. I think I just want to support other families who are going through things. I want to educate about the red flags of domestic violence, maybe have webinars about learning about what you can do if a loved one goes missing, things like that. So just education, awareness, all of that through our channel.
Yeah, I watched the National Missing Persons Day live they did yesterday. I told Lindsay, I said, you have to go watch this. This is wild. I had no idea about this story.
The story of Patty Otto is an unbelievable, you can't make this up kind of story. Yeah.
Can you tell us about it briefly? The shirt says "Burn After Reading." There you go.
Yes.
Everyone's asking. And Lindsay, you have an homage to Gabby on as well, right?
Yeah, I have the Van Life t-shirt.
Love it.
Love it. It's a great shirt.
I want the Van Life t-shirt for sure. But can you tell us, Nikki, about this person you just referenced?
Well, I highly recommend you follow on FB. The page called Patty's Voice, and it's a story about Patty Otto, and her daughter Suzanne runs that page, and it's connected to the Finley Creek Jane Doe in the most amazing way. And I really can't summarize the story too much other than saying when the poster of the Finley Creek Jane Doe came out, Suzanne, the daughter of Patty Otto, who's missing, the poster looks exactly like Suzanne. It's literally her face. So this is an incredible story of Patty, Suzanne's mom, kind of serendipitously bringing her to find her mother. And she knows kind of where her mother is, but there's a whole story. I mean, I can't even summarize it. It's so much information, but highly recommend you follow the pages. And very
Well, it's like a
interesting.
40-year story too. It's not
Yeah.
something that happened
1978,
yesterday. Yeah, this
Mhm.
sort of defined the arc and trajectory of the rest of her life.
Yeah.
The relationship she had with her siblings, her father, who was prime suspect number 1. It's just you can't make it up. You
Mhm.
just can't make something like that up, but I couldn't look away from it, and I think Lindsay also just asked sort of the question that I had queued up for that is, do you plan to spotlight more stories like that and have more living victims or survivors on to help bring awareness to missing people of any range of time? Because that I couldn't explain it either. If Joel asked me right now, well, can you summarize it? I'd be like,
It's too much.
I talk a lot, but I don't know if I can
Yeah.
unthread that one with the time that
Yeah.
we have, because it was just wild.
Definitely plan on highlighting more families. We partnered with Light the Way recently, the Gabby Petito Foundation. Light the Way for the Missing started in, I want to say, early 2022, and they are just advocating for missing persons, but in such an amazing way. The families they bring on, they've really helped them. And Suzanne is one of those families. That's why we were able to have them on the show. And it's an amazing, amazing collaboration, and I'm so excited to bring more awareness to these missing loved ones that have been missing for, 40 plus years. We need to get resolution for these poor families. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine. I can't imagine
I
that
mean,
long.
like today is Summer Wells' birthday, and
Yes.
she's still missing. There's another
It's
story.
her 9th birthday today.
It's her 9th birthday. So, and there's so many stories of missing people out there that just don't get the attention. And if we can use a voice or a platform to do it, that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And
I just
go
got
ahead.
off a flight from Philadelphia, and I went up there. And I think it's important to just highlight this because it's missing persons, but it's also the issue of DV. But this is also a very long, convoluted story that goes back to 2011. Her name was Ellen Greenberg.
Yep.
And it's now it's all over the news, but we've been covering for quite a while, and I've become really close to her parents. But if you know the story, the medical examiner he initially ruled this a homicide. The fiance's uncle is a very prominent, very wealthy criminal defense attorney with ties to the governor. And for 14 years, the parents spent $800,000. And after 14 years on Saturday, the medical examiner finally relents and says, you know what? It was not a self-unaliving. So this is just literally, there was a lid on this case to the point where the attorney for the Greenbergs told me up in Philadelphia, he thought this lawsuit against the city of Philadelphia was actually going to be completely dismissed and they would have to start from square one. So I guess my question, and Jim, I'll toss it to you. I mean, these are parents like you who are unrelenting. They've got a lot of years on you guys. He's Josh Greenberg is 70s, maybe coming up on 80. And you could see how tired he was, but I was so in awe of the fact that they just never gave up. And now it looks like we are very close to justice for Ellen Greenberg. So just curious on your thoughts about that and sort of the tenacity of a lot of these parents.
Yeah, it's something that you just have inside you as a parent, that you'll do anything to make right by your children. And I have followed that case, and I remember reading all the backstories on it, and I'm like, come on, we can't see this, we can't see what's going on here. And so you just find that strength every day, no matter what. Like that becomes your drive every day. You get up and you're just determined, and you're not going to give up. And I think that all the work that they've been doing for the last 14 years, I think it's going to come through, and I think they're finally going to get justice. But her case is another one of those cases that it highlights self-unalivings under suspicious circumstances, and there is a considerable amount of those going on across the country and across the world. They just took a study out of Australia, New Zealand, but there's also one here out of the U.S., Alliance for Hope International. They're a very big DV organization, and they have a whole program, a whole class on
Hidden homicides.
Hidden unalivings. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep it YT PC.
good.
So hidden unalivings and staged crime scenes. And, they have this whole list that they came up with that if it hit these 10 factors, that it needs to be investigated as suspicious before you rule out, done by self. And so her case certainly hits a lot of those points that they highlight, and it should be investigated as such before you rule it. And I believe California just passed the first statute on that. I think it's SB 989, that all self-unaliving cases will be viewed as such before they're determined to be that. And so it's something that happens, and it's very, very common, unfortunately.
I have a question, sort of in this vein, sort of not. We're going to go with it. A lot of people would agree that what's going on in the Ellen Greenberg situation, it's unacceptable. It defies logic to see how they reached the initial conclusion that this was an unaliving. And I think we all know that, or I'll feel at the very least, that her family deserved more, that she deserved better. And I think there's a lot of people that also feel like you deserved better, that the closure or the justice in Gabby's situation wasn't the package we wanted it to come in. Feeling that you were robbed of sort of the accountability factor, and the resolution that you were entitled to had an unaliving not occurred. How do you feel about that? How are you taking care of yourselves? Do you feel that you have gotten the resolution to this that you deserve? Or is this in some way motivating you with your organization? Because I can't imagine how it must feel not to be able to have that moment of accountability with the person you just want to look in the eyes and hold accountable for something, and you didn't really get that.
I always say I speak for myself. I'm at peace with it. I'm glad we never have to go to a trial. I have, forgiven Brian, because I just feel, for me, I need that so I can let that go and move on and do what I'm doing now. And, nobody else has to do that. The parents don't have to do that, but the other parents. I did that for me, and it feels really good. I do still feel that slight bitterness about the other people involved not being held accountable for their actions. And that does drive me to want to help families not have to go through this. And we do need a lot of law changes. And one of our main goals is to change the system and hold people accountable for their actions. So
Yeah.
You got anything on that?
Yeah, no, I'm kind of with you. A part of me wishes that we had our day in court. We don't like to use the word closure, because I don't think you ever get closure.
Right.
I think you just go to another step of the grieving process. I don't know if he was still alive, if he was up on a stand, if we would ever hear a true story out of him anyway. And I think it would leave us open to more questions than answers. Unfortunately, we didn't have that day in court, and we went civilly. We learned a lot about the legal system and how complicated it was, and we basically got the answers that we were looking for, although they answered them in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
And so we were able to settle. Unfortunately, we had to, but from there, I think a giant weight was lifted off of our shoulders that day. And I think for the two of us, I know that we've allowed us to do a lot more for the foundation, concentrate a lot more on our family, and really kind of grow mentally and emotionally together.
Yeah.
A quick
Sorry, I'm
question
just
for me.
chatty. There you go.
Yeah. I'm just curious, prior to the summer of 2021, what were you all doing? Obviously, I don't think you were that invested in this sort of thing, because there was really no reason to be. And then this happens, and suddenly, really, the four of you are the faces for advocating, against EV and for missing persons, and you're in the spotlight. And I know you're doing Good Morning America, and there's this big Netflix doc coming out. I believe it's called American Murder, the Gabby Petito story, which comes out September 17th. So what has it been like for you, Nikki, to suddenly become this person that everyone's looking to for answers?
That's a good question. Some days I'm like, I don't have the answer to that. People do come to me and they ask me for help, and if I don't have the answer for them, I definitely have connections to guide them to. So I do my best to work around whatever I can to help as much as I can with the information and the tools that I have and the things that I've learned. But I wish that there was a million of me to help, but I can't. I don't can only stretch my time so much and help so many people. But we do try our best. I think we all have our own way of helping, and we do it differently. We have different what's the word I'm looking for?
Specialties, you know?
Yeah,
I'm not-
basically.
Strengths, your areas,
Right.
your
There you
strengths.
Mhm.
Miss
Yeah, and if
Brazy
you
here. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Lindsay.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say, if you guys go to the foundation YouTube channel, Nikki's got a lot of great one-liners.
Yeah.
One of those is, in reference to DV, saying it's not a women's issue, it's a systemic issue.
Mhm.
Oh, throughout Gabby's story, when did you find that out?
Pretty early on when we started talking to the domestic violence hotline and meeting advocates and learning ourselves what the signs and red flags were, and then learning about how it's responded to. And that's when it really clicked that there's a problem, a big problem. It's
Mhm.
not an in private in the home problem like everybody
Right.
kind of looks at it as still. It's a systemic societal problem, and we need to focus on flipping the coin and changing the narrative. We're victim blaming. We need to stop doing that. We
Mhm.
see it in Hollywood all the time. I don't even want to go there, but I see these stories and I'm like, oh no, it's the victim blaming is awful. So
Well, and
Yeah.
DV now has a definition that extends well beyond what you can physically see. Like, we're evolving to understand that DV does not necessarily start with physical interactions with another person.
yes.
And those risks and those warning signs include things like jealousy, control, isolation, and it's IPV, intimate partner violence, is usually the most significant predictor of IPH, intimate partner homicide. And there's risk models and predictions and assessments on your proximity to being a potential IPH victim. And that's significantly higher if there's already physical violence. And like you
Mhm.
said, it's not always something that people wear on their sleeves. I mean, I've had DV in my past that if you had no idea, there wasn't a physical mark on me. The only mark left on me was the bill for my therapist later. But it's so much bigger and broader and sometimes under the radar and invisible than it appears to be, on its face. Is there anything working with the Gabby Petito Foundation? Is there anything that you've learned that you didn't expect to learn about how to be a victim's advocate and how to be sort of a thought leader, I guess, on all of this? It's not something you asked for, but it's sort of where you found yourself. Is there anything that you're surprised that you learned in that process?
Yeah, I mean, the one thing
Mhm.
that I learned, our foundation has like a twofold approach. We do missing persons and then we do DV. And when we first started out, we having a meeting trying to figure everything out, and we were meeting with some uh, very, very powerful people in the DV world. And we were on a Zoom meeting, and we were just going over some stuff, and they were trying to get to know us. And I'm like, I'm just here to kind of listen because um, I'm a man, and I don't think I should really, be one to speak about DV. I'm probably going to stick to missing persons. And I had this very, very uh, well-known person in the DV world say, "You're 100% wrong." And I said, "What?" They're like, "You couldn't be more wrong. A matter of fact, everything you just said was wrong. And let me tell you why." And I'm like, "Hey, a simple like, okay,
Yeah.
Tiptoe around your feelings.
yeah, let's look at this a little differently." And I
Yeah.
said, "What do you mean?" And she was like, "No, we need more men to stand up and speak out." She's like,
Mhm.
"Women have been fighting this fight for well over 50 years in this country, and we need more men to stand up and say that we're not going to take this anymore, that it's not right, that we're going to hold each other accountable." And the majority, most men aren't abusers, but the majority of abusers are men.
Mhm.
And it's about time that men step up, and when they see something or they hear something that's not right, to say something and stop it. It's also our duty to teach our sons to be a lot better growing up, to be respectful, to teach them what a respectful relationship looks like,
Mhm.
how our partner should be treated. And I think it starts there. And that was something that like was really eye opening to me. And something I really took to heart.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah,
you know, I'm like all in on it and doing what I can. As a matter of fact, we were just on a vacation on a cruise, and an older man made a very inappropriate comment to our teenage daughter.
Yeah.
And
She's 16.
and she's 16.
He's still
And,
breathing?
10 years ago, that would have been a different reaction for me.
I'm getting canceled. The internet's canceling me now.
But-
I don't promote violence.
But Jim, how did you handle that? Because for me, I would have tossed him overboard.
Yeah, he wouldn't be breathing.
Yeah,
Oh,
but I
it's-
mean, I mean, did you take it as a? Did you take? You know, it's interesting.
learning moment.
The other
So-
day, there's a. I'm a huge fight fan. I don't know if you follow the UFC, but there's a guy named Bryce Mitchell, and he's not the brightest bulb in the box. And he basically came out and said that Adolf Hitler was a great guy. And my initial reaction was, as being the son of a Holocaust survivor, that I wanted to beat the crap out of him, although he would kill me because he's a professional fighter. However, I sent a note to Dana White and I said, you know what? Bring this guy on my show with my mother and make it a teaching lesson. My mom's like she's a black belt in verbal jujitsu.
Yeah.
Of course, they all ignored me, but I thought it would have been really cool, you know, instead of like ripping him apart, you know, instead of just having this knee-jerk reaction, which is like the F you, you're an idiot, like to bring him on with someone who's an actual Holocaust survivor to teach him the level of stupidity for what he did. So that goes full circle. What did you do on the cruise ship when some guy said something, now that you know a lot more about this issue?
So I am severely German and Irish with a little bit of Scottish mixed in there. So my blood pressure went through the roof immediately. My daughter was walking past him to go to the bathroom. And I know what I heard, and I will never repeat what he said because it's just, I don't want to give that any time of day. And so I waited for my daughter to come back, and I was like, you want something to drink before we head out? And she was like, sure. So we got something to drink. And I said, did that gentleman just say this to you? Which he's not a gentleman, and she was like, yes, he did. But it's fine. It's okay, Dad. Don't make a scene. I go, no. I was like, honey, that's not fine. I said, sit right here. I'll be right back. And I walked over, and he had two friends with him. And I said, excuse me. I go, did you just say something to that girl over there? And he goes, right. Oh, I'm sorry. And he's like, I'm like, one, she's 16 years old. He goes, I didn't know how old she was. I said, what would it matter if she was 26, 36, or 56? I said, would you speak to your mother like that? Your sister? Would you want somebody to speak to them like that? He's like, no. I go, do you really think that's appropriate? Do you think any woman wants to hear those words come out of a man's mouth? And he was like, no. I go, well, you owe my daughter an apology. And I said, to your two friends right here, I said, shame on you for not saying something to your friend. I said, and telling him to do better, be better, and to look over him. I said, you're lucky you got me tonight, because if you got somebody else, it might have been a different story.
He's lucky I wasn't there. That's all I got to say.
I said, now you can come over to my daughter and you can offer an apology. So the only words I want to hear out of your mouth is a sincere apology, and then you can walk away. And he came over and he had an apology, and then he's tried to stay more. And I said, now you can go back with your friends, because my daughter you don't deserve to be in the presence of my daughter. Now go back to where you were. Thank you. And we walked away. And I could tell she was a little bit embarrassed.
She was probably like, oh my God.
Good for you. First of all, I like to embarrass my kids, but good for you, man, for you know, for doing that.
But if it was anybody else's daughter there, and I heard somebody say it to them too, I would be like, excuse me. Stop right
If
there.
it was my father, her grandfather that was there, he's got a cane right now. He would have smashed him over.
Listen, I'm telling you, 10 years ago, I couldn't guarantee what my response would have been. I would have found
been in cruise jail.
the jail on the cruise, I'm sure. But
yeah.
Well, Joel, I'll bring my mom and my bubby to that fight too, because the Jewish guilt in our family is very strong. So they can back up Carm and just be like,
we can have a cage fight with Carm
totally
in the middle of it.
get in the octagon.
By the way, Jules here is a friend of mine. I met her at the Sarah Boone trial, and in an earlier comment, Nikki, she said that because of Gabby's story, she was able to finally come out and be open about her own DV situation. And Julie is, she's very young and spry, but I'd say she's, a few years older than me. She's not a teenager anymore. It took many, many years. So when you hear that people of Julie's, age, are coming out because of what happened to Gabby, to kind of make their voice heard, what sort of feelings does that elicit from you internally?
It gives me almost the chills like every time I hear it. We were at an event recently and an older woman, I want to guess maybe she was in her 60s or so, and she said, I recently got out of a relationship because of Gabby, and I just wanted to let you know. And it just like stops me in my tracks because I cannot believe that Gabby made such an impact on so many people. And that's why we do what we do, because of Gabby, and it's her voice. And we're just she gave us this platform. So it means so much when people reach out to us to tell us stories, that whether it was Gabby or they saw us speak somewhere, it really just makes us feel amazing. And we always stress, if you do want to get out of a relationship, if you're in it, please make sure that you do it safely and have a plan. You can contact the hotline, or ask for help. Don't try to do it on your own, and make sure you have a plan.
Julie, I would never say this, but you did. I would never try to guess your age, but she said she's 71. So there you go. Jim, I have a question for you. One of the things that I've covered everything from financial. I was on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. I was investigative reporter of Fox 5 in New York City, and I've seen a lot of horrible things. But until I got in the true crime space, I just never really realized how violent a country this is. I mean, sadly, we're very dog friendly. So,
Sorry
about that.
I might
no,
respond
we
soon.
love it. It ain't STS if a dog's not barking.
Right.
So I guess my question to you, now that you're kind of in the middle of all this, are other countries as bad as we are? Because it seems like I cannot keep up. I get probably 30 emails a day. Hey, look at this story. Hey, look at this story. Hey, look at this story. And it's like, what is going on in this country? But is this happening everywhere?
We muted for the dogs, so here we go.
Yes, no, it's not just happening here in the U.S. It's happening everywhere. It's a huge issue in Australia. It's a huge issue in the U.K. It is a huge problem in throughout Africa and parts of Europe. It's everywhere, and a lot of it, I think, stems from the old beliefs of the patriarchal system and the way men are raised, where men are tough. You don't show emotion. We're in charge. We're not to be questioned. And it's everywhere. It's not just here. And it's the same dynamics all across the world. And when we first started the foundation, people were reaching out from all over the place. We had a doctor reach out to us from I think it was Kenya, to see if she wanted to use some portions of Gabby's story to try to help the girls that come to her medical center. We had people reaching out to us from Germany, from Australia, from the UK, just asking for any type of help. And as a matter of fact, we just got a lady wrote a whole book on coercive control she's from Germany, and I'm still waiting to figure out how to translate it because it's 268 pages in German.
Yeah.
But it happens everywhere.
Run that through ChatGPT. I think it might do it.
Yeah.
If not, I think I know someone that can help,
Smart.
like a computer system that can help you. But Lindsay, Kimberly.
Well, I was going to bring up the incident in Moab. I was talking to my husband about that, incident, and, someone had called the police, and I had asked him if you had seen that it happened in a public space, obviously, because someone called. He was telling me I would have a lot of issues not taking this, we'll call it moral high ground of interfering, because my husband's a big guy, and seeing a young lady going through that, what, through your training and education and whatnot, what is the best thing to do if you see that out in public?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I would say
How to be a good bystander.
How to be a good bystander if you don't want to get involved.
I want a quick mention before Jim goes further. The 911 call for this incident, that 911 caller, and I don't know if people haven't heard it, it's on you. You can go listen to it. Just Google it. It's there. he is the most perfect witness. He has descriptions. He knows exactly what happened. He knows exactly the direction they're going in. He gives the 911 operator every opportunity to, relay information perfectly. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that to be a good bystander, take note of how that call went, because everything he said was just on point. But go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I would just say if you're witnessing something like that, and I can understand nowadays why people tend not to get like hands-on involved with these things, because just how crazy some things turn. We live here down in Florida, and you hear crazy stories all the time of people interjecting in something bad happening. But call 911 immediately. Try to do the best you can to give the best physical description of the people involved, what's happening, exact locations of where you are. Try to stay on the phone with that 911 operator as long as you can. And in the instance of with Gabby, he had said, all right, that he's in a white van. Let me get the make and model for you. Here's the plate number. Here's the direction in which they're traveling. And just trying to really paint a picture for the 911 operators the best they can of what's going on. You don't want to do anything to ever jeopardize your own safety. And I've been in the fire service for 25 years. And the most important thing that we've always taught everybody is, scene safety. If you're not safe, you can't help anybody else. So stay at a distance until it's safe to do so. And then at some point, if there is time to interject where you can come in and try to help somebody safely, and you feel like you're able to do so, then that's the decision you can make.
Read the room, just worry about yourself first.
Those moments make a big difference. And I'm glad you asked about that, Lindsay, because the bystander effect is very real. And even just making the 911 call at a distance, it's doing something. And I had an experience in an abusive relationship where someone intervened, and I don't know what would have happened had they not intervened. And we were out in public. And he just had me like sort of pinned up against a wall and was in my face. And woman walking by went, "Are you okay?" And I went, "No, no, I'm not." She's like, "I'll walk you to your car. You're not driving? I'll put you in an Uber myself." And she just grabbed me and she's like, sit, like just was on him like white on rice. And I'm not a timid person by any means, but I have no idea how that would have turned out differently. I had this really brave, just ball buster of a woman just walked over like, "You go away. You come with me." And I could not be more grateful to her. I know most people wouldn't intervene.
Yeah, I think that's
in that way, but I'm grateful that she didn't even tell me her name. She was just like, "You're coming with me." Like,
I always say that
danger or this guy. I'm going to go.
Guardian angels out there, right?
Yeah.
Like you never know. This is the right person at the right time, and nothing is by accident. There's no coincidences. So
always situational dependent. And sometimes it's just at the right moment to interject. So
I think the end of this comment is so important from Crystal DeSaro. One thing you don't do is just pull out your cell and record it. You see that way too often. Also, don't assume someone else will call, because I think everyone assumes, the other person's going to call.
Right.
And then and you see here the Kitty Genovese case, which is very famous, the bystander effect. So number one, Nikki, everyone is saying how closely you resemble Gabby. I'm sure you hear that all the time. You guys also look like you could be the same age. But this Netflix doc is coming out. Are you guys okay if I play the trailer for people to see? And then is that okay with you? Okay.
Yes.
It runs, it's a little lengthy, so it's a couple of minutes, if not more. Here we go.
Yep, no problem.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Gabby.
And this is our Ford Transit Connect that we've been living in. And we thought it was finally time to give you a tour.
Gabby and Brian seemed like a loving couple.
Talking about you, baby, burning hot.
Oh.
But behind the scenes, they would get into arguments.
No, turn it back. Baby, come here. I want to retake this video.
Brian thought the vlog was stupid.
Big open floor for you to keep your dirty feet.
The happiest people on social media usually have the darkest skeletons in their closet.
I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Gentleman was slapping the girl.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face.
Gabby Petito has not been heard from for weeks.
We had officers go to the Laundry family home.
We don't know anything. Was Gabriel here? No, she's not here. Is this her vehicle?
2 people went on a trip, 1 person returned.
knew something bad happened.
We now have 2 missing young people.
I was screaming. What did he do?
I said you need to come out now.
I remember saying to Brian, you keep her safe. And he looked at me and he smiled. He said, I will.
So that's that. And I know that Nikki and Jim are sort of limited in how they can respond. So I'm just going to leave it totally open-ended to you guys to say whatever you'd like about
Yeah. So a lot of people ask, the one question we get is, did we participate in it? Yes, we did. Clearly we're in it. We wanted to relay Gabby's story in our way, because a lot of people told her story without us involved. So that was just why we did that. It's coming out the 17th. It premieres this month. We hope people enjoy it. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. So it's Gabby's story. It's our story. So please, anything you got to say about it?
Yeah, I can guarantee it's going to be the #1 trending show for sure, which is, again, that's got to be Jim, it's got to be surreal for you. I think you said you're a firefighter, and now you're literally, I'm getting the chills. You're literally the guy that like I would call you, even though we're not really friends, but I'm hoping we will be after the show. But if I ran into a situation with my, like we have a lot of like FBI agents and people like this on the show who have tons of situational awareness. And, someone said to me, hey, don't ever let a teacher at school or someone keep a secret between them and your child. I didn't even really, like I'm very aware, but it's not, I never thought about it in that context. So, but now you are, like Lindsay said, you're the thought leader. You're the one that, people are turning to. I thought that was amazing advice. No kid should ever keep a secret. Then another FBI agent told me you got to have a duress word. So what advice do you or Nikki have, for people out there that they might be very obvious, but they're not aware of?
I would just say to make sure that you always keep an open line of communication with your kid, at all times. So I worked as a firefighter for 22 years. I retired. I still work for a fire department down here. I'm just not on the front lines anymore. I work in the office. And I was asked flat out in a deposition, so you have DV training. You've gone through this. You've responded to these calls. No, I never did. So I didn't know what to look for. And shame on me for 25 years working in this field, responding to these and not truly doing justice to some of the people that I responded to, and not really understanding the dynamics of what I came across. And now you're thrust into the forefront of the media, and your life is just unfolding in front of everybody. And it really just seemed like one of those crazy made for TV movies or TV shows that like every episode you're like, that's not real. This is crazy. And so sitting back and looking back on all that, and now, we consider ourselves lifelong learners and continuing to educate ourselves in all the different aspects of missing persons in DV. And so we learned a lot now, and hindsight's 2020. So looking back on it, there were signs there that we missed. So just being cognizant of your loved one, paying attention to, how they're acting, if something doesn't seem right, if they seem like they're isolating themselves from you, if they seem like they're not acting right and things are just off, just really paying attention. You can't force anybody to get out of a DV situation. That's the last thing they need, is to be told, like, you need to do this. They're going through a terrible situation as it is, and they're not going to open up to you. But just to be open, be empathetic, and tell them that you're there for them and you're there to support them. And whatever it is, there's nothing that, any one of my kids right now could tell me that I wouldn't be there to support them. So just being that ear to listen, I think, is huge.
Yeah. You bring up an amazing point, by the way. You're a firefighter for 22 years, and now you're working more of an office job. But the most dangerous situation whenever you talk to law enforcement are responding to domestic violence calls at a home. Does there need to be kind of wide scale training for firefighters and police officers to understand what DV is. I mean, they're trained to fire a weapon, but do they need to be trained psychologically about what's going on and how to better assess a situation? And this goes to the point of the officers, not to point any kind of blame, but the officers in Utah, could have responded better.
So, yes, 100%. That is one of the most common calls. I'm not a police officer, but it's one of the most common calls that they go to. It's also one of the most dangerous calls they go to. And on average, it takes, I'll call them a survivor 7 times before they decide to leave. So that's 7 potential times that law enforcement, fire, and EMS can potentially respond to this home. We actually just started a program, and we started teaching fire, EMS, 911 dispatchers the dynamics of DV, all of the statistics, the characteristics of an abuser, the characteristics of what a victim looks like, how to respond, how to use a trauma-informed approach in order to get them to open up and be honest and speak with you, and then other signs to look for as far as things that they would do. I don't know if I could say the word on YT. Starts with an S.
Go for it.
Strangulation. So, about 75% of law enforcement that are unalived in the line of duty are done so by persons with a history of strangulation. They are single-handedly some of the most dangerous people that walk the face of the earth. And it's been called pretty much the perfect crime, strangulation, because less than 50% of the people who are actually strangled ever have any external marks on their body. So if I'm pulling up as a paramedic or a firefighter and this person is walking and talking to me, maybe they're crying, maybe they're upset. Okay, you look good, you feel fine, you don't want to go to the hospital, sign here, have a nice day. Only to find out that there's so many other underlying issues that could go on, like carotid dissections, potential for stroke later on. It goes on and on, the issues that can prevail.
And I want to point out that this is something that even younger people like middle school and high school are doing for fun, and in situations where they're couples are doing this for funsies, and it is very, very dangerous. It is not something that you should be doing ever. It's not for pleasure. It's not. It's very dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
It's like a trend. It's just bad.
There's
bad.
a rapper who sings about it.
Yeah, what's so interesting?
Eating Tide Pods again. That seems like a far less terrifying.
What's interesting is in back to the Ellen Greenberg case. Josh Greenberg, the father, is very vocal now because there are marks on her neck that she was actually strangled to death. And then these knife wounds were sort of used as cover. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But the private investigator for the Pennsylvania State Police that's been doing pro bono work for the Greenbergs believes the same exact thing. Lindsay Kimberly, I know I'm hogging the airtime. I hate myself.
No, you're not. I was just thinking about Mamta a second ago because there were several DV calls to their home where there was no physical sign that there had been an altercation, but someone called the police, and more on that later. But it was a coercive control situation, and we know nothing about what the result of that call was, probably because they were unprepared and didn't identify something that was actually happening they could do anything about. It's so common, so incredibly common.
We want to try and work more with, I don't know if you know the Micah Miller case. We want to try to get more coercive control laws out there passed. And I know her family's very adamant about fighting for those laws. So we definitely stand with them because they just passed some in the UK not too long ago. And it's a problem. It leads to homicide.
Yeah,
So,
you can say it.
I don't know what words to replace.
You gotta love YouTube. It's like communist China. Now I'm gonna get totally.
We'll just have to make a bingo card. You start saying all the wrong words, you get a bingo and you get canceled.
Somebody had a statement that you pinned the banner on before that like a DV expert should respond on all DV calls. So that's part of the bill that we Joe helped push down here in Florida, as well as we kind of supported in Utah, and we're trying to push it elsewhere. That's the LAP bill, lethality assessment program. So the lethality assessment is not just a series of 10 questions to ask a victim at the time of interaction with law enforcement. It provides law enforcement with additional training about that coercive control, about how to how to have that trauma-informed approach. You still have to ask the questions, and it's that old adage, it's not what you say, but how you say it. So it teaches them in a way on how to ask it. And the purpose of that is to determine how grave of a situation they're in, depending on, is there weapons, is there a history of strangulation, all these questions. And if they hit a certain amount of points on it, then it automatically triggers a call to the local domestic violence center that law enforcement is working with this lethality assessment to get a DV advocate on the phone and start safety planning with that victim at that moment. Now they can choose to not take the call. Law enforcement can place the call. The victim may say, no, I don't want to get on it, but they're provided with the information to say, this is where you can call. Or best case scenario, the offender is locked up, and now safety planning is starting for that victim at a very crucial time. And now they're understanding early on into this just how dangerous of a situation you're in. So
yeah, and somebody made a comment before, it does take an average of 7 times for a victim to finally leave. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The dynamics of domestic violence are very complicated. And so that's the other reason why people need to stop victim blaming and judging them for not leaving the first time, because there's many reasons. There could be children involved. There could be pets involved. There could be financial reasons involved. There's so many reasons. And your brain chemistry is changed when you're in this abusive, cycle. So we have to stop blaming them, and we have to offer a helping hand and guide them. And it's just very scary and sad. And I just wish I could save everybody, but one step at a time. We're trying.
It's a trauma bond,
Yeah, you're doing a really great job. And I wanted to ask too, like, I know we know Gabby's story, what happened to her, but what was Gabby like before all of this? Like, what kind of music did she listen to? What kind of things did she enjoy? Like, I want to hear about that part of Gabby too.
Well, she was an amazing artist. I mean, when she was born, she came out ready to go. She was ready to like run and play, and she just was a fun personality. She had this spirit that was very unforgettable, and everybody that came into her presence felt that. Yeah, everything she did with 1,000%. Like, she cared. She worked at Taco Bell. She was like, I'm gonna make the best tacos ever. She loved saying, have a taco-tastic day. Like, she just like loved life. Yeah. So I mean,
yeah, she was amazing. She I always remember it was like Jerry Maguire, when he started dating Renee Zellweger, and he was like, like you fell in love with the kid and stuff like that, and he's got that whole saying. And I remember, like, I fell in love with Nikki like the first moment I saw her, and I knew that she had Gabby. I know how special that is for to be a single mom, 'cause my parents were divorced, and so I was probably more nervous about meeting Gabby than I was, with being with Nikki at that point. And I remember the first time I saw her, she came out, she had these little pink sweatpants on, this gray shirt, and her hair, and these pigtails, and these bright blue eyes, and she just lit up a room wherever she went. And she loved her family. She loved her siblings. She was a tiny little thing, but nobody would mess with her brothers and sisters. They didn't always get along. They had that brother sisterly little arguments every now and then. But if there was an outside force, she was like feisty there to stick up for them.
we have some great questions here. I mean, and thank you for all the beautiful comments. Everybody, I just wanted to say that because I keep seeing such lovely comments from people. So thank you.
By the way, how is the rest of the family doing?
Everybody's dealing with it in their own way, but we also know that we're living life because that's what Gabby would want us to do. We have to move forward. We have to live while we're here. We can't live in the past. We can't change the past. So, we just day by day, there's days when I don't want to do that. There's days when I want to stay in bed and watch, Netflix or whatever, but that's okay.
What do you think Gabby would be doing today?
Well, I mean, I think that this whole van life thing would have been a super big success. I think that she would have been probably doing it on her own. So at some point. And God, she was just that one video she made. If anybody hasn't seen her YouTube video, there's only one on the channel, Nomadic Static. I mean, I highly recommend you go watch it. That was her first video she ever did. I thought it was done really well for somebody's first video. I think it's got like over 7 million views or something now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just nice to have those memories. I'm glad she took lots of pictures and videos, but yeah, I think she would have been traveling in that van, maybe even eventually going worldwide. I think she would have ended up traveling all over the world, because that seemed to be where she was headed with her. She was starting to really get passionate about this, and yeah.
Someone asked just now in the chat, and just to show you my ignorance, I had never heard of this, but it came up on a show a couple months ago about the international sign for DV, which is the hand and the thumb. Is that something that needs more, I guess, PR work around it? I mean, people within the DV community, I think, know about it, but I don't think a typical person who's not involved or was never involved in DV might know this. So what can we do? What can you do to spread the word about that?
I think I put posts up about it, spreading it on social media. There's some plenty of videos out there about stories that where it's been used, and people have called 911 after seeing it and saved someone. I mean, it really did work. So, it's a simple, just this, and you could do it behind your back. You could, so the person doesn't see or whatever. Do it safely. You can't do it, while the person is next to you that is, whether they're holding you captive or whatever it is. So it's really just a sign saying, I need help. And if more people know that, then it will be seen, and hopefully the person will be saved.
Yeah. Jim, I got a question. I mean, this is something that really it kind of gets under my skin, and that's, one of the things I try to do on the show is keep it real and authentic, including sometimes offering up insider information on the arguments between the COE and I, and that gets me in trouble every single time. But on Instagram, as we know, it's all unicorns and butterflies, and the relationship was perfect. Talk to us about social media and how it is, it is inaccurate, let's put it that way, in terms of factually representing relationships, how people are feeling, and the impact that this has.
Well, I think social media has really grown over the years, and it's a way for people to express themselves, connect with family and friends, give people a little insight into their lives. But you're only getting a little snapshot, whether it's a little picture, you're getting a video of one small moment in their life. And sometimes that's somebody's like healthy mental outlet for them to express, like, these are the things that are happy in my life. But you're missing those hundreds of other moments when things are completely different, and you're only getting a little snapshot. And for people to look and always see things on there, see your favorite influencer or whatever, like, oh my God, look how wonderful their life is. And then 2 weeks later, you're reading some crazy headline in the newspaper about, something outrageous that's going on in their life. Like, but no way, they're so happy on social media. It's just like one of those, you're only getting a very little insight into their life. They're only showing you the good. You don't hear necessarily the bad all the time.
Right.
So don't take everything for what you see as face value.
I like to remind people, like, don't compare yourself to people you see on social media, because everybody's got something, and they may not be telling you this on their social media platform, but something's going on in some way. And don't compare yourself. Just realize that
we're all individuals.
Yeah.
Find your own happiness, find your own things that you like to do, find your own things your own healthy outlets, and express yourself in healthy ways. And don't look at for others, for that reassurance, I guess, or what a lot of people look for.
I love seeing some of the, on the TT. I don't know if we're allowed to say other platforms on here, but a lot of people are very raw and real on there. And I don't know if I connect to those more when somebody gets on there and they're not wearing makeup and they're crying and they're telling their story. I feel like that's the real stuff. Like, that's what people should do more of. Stop doing this fake, well, look, everything's perfect. Because you can maybe help others by sharing your story and your realness. So I like that.
I think we carefully curate our online presence for a reason. We want. Can you imagine if we were only allowed to put the worst parts of ourselves on the internet? Some people do it already.
The worst part of our lives, for the most part, is our internet presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You can't tell very much from social media anyway. It's the most curated thing that we do. We want to present to the world that we are whole or we are happy or we want validation from other people. And I think what's unique to me about Gabby is that that wasn't necessarily what she was doing. You can just look at her pictures and she just looks like a vibrant human being that wants to just vibrate happiness and sunshine everywhere. Like she was a bit younger than me. I'm significantly.
We don't talk about that.
Like I feel like, because I'm only 29 for like the ninth year. I feel like she's someone that I could have just met on the street and I would have had an instant friend. And I think that's what strikes me so much about her legacy and the way that I never knew her, but I feel like I did because she wasn't curating this very strange, weird, me, valid. She was just sharing with the world. And I think that's just what makes people want to connect to her so much.
I think she viewed a lot of her stuff that she put on there as art. Like she took pride in, I can guarantee you that every one of those photos that she put up of landscapes or whatever it was, she took the time to make sure that like it just was perfect.
Oh, I know, because there was thousands of them. I know she only picked certain ones that were just right. So yeah.
What's has there been, people have reached out to you from all over the world. Has there been like one thing that someone has done to honor Gabby that aside from the mural in Ogden, Utah? I mean, is there something that really stood out to you guys?
Oh, we had a few things. On Long Island, Tess Parker, a local muralist, she did a beautiful mural on the wall with Gabby right in our hometown of Blue Point. Anybody that's visited usually goes there and leaves flowers or something. It's really nice. We had a guy in Australia, an artist. That picture you showed before with the wings, it's kind of like digitized a little bit. Yes. He created this image and told us we could do whatever we wanted with it and keep it. And I just think it's so beautiful. I loved it. I actually put it on her funeral card because I loved it so much.
We have another guy from Poland who makes a calendar every year
with Gabby's photos,
with different Gabby's photos and like art and stuff that's out there. And he just sends it to us every year.
The bench in Northport, Florida. That was donated to us by a guy named Aaron and some other funding that was raised for it. He came down from Indiana, built the bench. It's beautiful. And if you ever get a chance in Florida, if you're in the Northport area, go check it out. It's by City Hall. We've had so many amazing people come out and just celebrate Gabby and honor her in some artistic way.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna ask you this question, and I'll let Kimberly and Lindsay, ask their questions, and we'll get some final thoughts. But what do you hope, Nikki, is Gabby's legacy 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now? I mean, I think people are going to know her name that far down the road, which doesn't happen with 99.9% of the people on this earth. It's interesting. I just heard, again, I'm a fight fan. I was listening to an interview with Mike Tyson, and someone said, "Hey, what do you want your legacy to be?" And Tyson looked like he wanted to rip the guy's head off. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "That's all ego. That's all irrelevant. No one's going to remember me. When I'm dead, no one's going to remember." And Mike Tyson, in a very odd way, is incredibly wise.
Humble.
He's a big reader. But I'm just curious because I do think Gabby's name is going to be relevant 20, 30 years from now. And so what do you hope that legacy is?
I hope that her story inspires change, and whether her name is on a bill change or changing domestic violence, the way we respond to it, the way we prevent it, helping change laws for missing persons. I just hope that it helps inspire that change, and we leave the world better than we found it when we move on because of her. And I think it just caused a domino effect of change, and that's the goal. And when we leave this earth, I hope that we know that we did our job and we used Gabby's story to make things better. So you got something?
Yeah, I just think, just plain and simple, I just hope that her name is synonymous with saving lives. And that's,
I love that.
yeah.
That's amazing. That's
I love
amazing.
that.
Lindsay, Kimberly, Lindsay, you want to have?
Yeah,
add
well,
it?
I just wanted to ask really quick before we go, what are some ways to support someone that we feel is going through a DV situation? How do you best support them? What questions do you ask? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like Jim said before, just being an open line of communication.
Mhm.
I like to use the word safe person because I worked in a school, so like, you know, you have your safe people to go to. Somebody that they wouldn't mind opening up to, but also don't have judgment if they do open up to you. And every situation is going to be so different. So really kind of depends on the person and what they're going through and what your friendship is, or if you're relatives or whatever. Just telling them that they can trust you and asking them what they need from you.
Yeah.
What can you do to help them?
Open-ended
Yeah.
questions.
Mhm.
What can I do to support you?
Yeah.
What can I do to help you? What way, is there anything right now that I can do to help you? And just listening, because oftentimes people get frustrated because they're not leaving. And so they say, why should I help you? Why should I stick around? If you're going to stay, it's your fault.
Mhm.
Don't start victim blaming. Don't start telling them, you're going to leave. They don't need you to leave them or be in their life if you're just going
Yeah,
to.
don't get frustrated with
Yeah.
them, because I remember it's an average of 7 times. It could be more than that. I don't know if anybody watches the show Shrinking on Apple TV. There
I
is a situation in that show where there's a similar, kind of scenario going on, and eventually she leaves, but it takes like teeth pulling. But you just have to be there for them. That's it. That's all you have to do. Of course, if you feel like they're very, very unsafe, you can call the hotline and get advice. This is what's going on. I'm really, really nervous. I'm afraid for my friend's life or my sister's life or whoever it is. What should I do? And they can give you, depending on your situation, the right tools for that.
Jim, thank you for saying that about the frustration, because what I was going to say is I wanted to acknowledge a comment that was on the screen before from Just Emily, that these conversations make the most significant impact because of difficulties, discomfort, embarrassment, shame. And that's completely relatable for me. And this piggybacks exactly onto what you were just saying. The barrier, as Just Emily put it, to having these discussions is so tall, and it can happen. DV just doesn't happen to you, but you don't see it coming sometimes until it does. I'm a very strong-willed human being. If someone were to kidnap me, they bring me back. But like I have a degree in psychology, and I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and I found myself in this just drowning situation where the complexity of your bond with this person, you can't explain it. And even the strongest of people can find themselves in that situation, and it feels embarrassing. You feel ashamed of yourself because you know better. And the worst thing you can do is tell someone, well, why do you want my advice? You don't take it. Or to get frustrated and give up on you and say, okay, because they don't know any better. So, gosh, if anyone needs a safe person, I'll give you my phone number. I just don't be afraid to communicate. And there's organizations now like the Gabby Petito Foundation that can help you find resources if you don't know what to do. And for me, that would have been super critical for someone to snap me out of my days and go, "You're a smart woman. What is happening here?" But I didn't have any. I had to do that on my own, and I did, luckily. But it would have been so much quicker and so much safer for me if I knew that there was someone I could communicate with that wouldn't judge me, dismiss me, get frustrated with me, at least not for that reason. And just knowing that you have someone to communicate with is so, so important.
Yeah. And I think someone made a comment too, like just leaving could be very, very unsafe. Like just getting up and leaving, that's the most unsafe time to get out of a DV relationship, because that's typically the time we see the unaliving. So we need to be really, really cognizant of that when we're safety planning, because, and again, every situation is so different. But
Yeah, I just wanted to say too, thank you for sharing your experiences, because that's not easy, and it takes a tremendous amount of strength to do that. And that's the one thing that we're finding, and I find that amazing for myself as a man, that whether we're on another social media platform or whatever, and we're having these same tough conversations. In the chat, I see a lot of people coming up and starting to share their story, and I've actually seen it tonight. And I want to thank all of them too for sharing it. But I feel like oftentimes there are people that are here and they're listening and they're going through something right now, and maybe they're not making comments or saying anything in the chat, but when they see other people coming forward and telling their stories, it's giving them strength and hope to know that there is a way out, that there is a safe way for them to find help. And that's the one thing that we can just hope for, is that the more we normalize having these conversations about these terrible things, that we can start helping more people before it's too late. And I think that's crucial.
We need to normalize taking it seriously.
Yeah.
You know, so many people it goes along with the shame and the embarrassment. Oh, you're just being dramatic, or it can't be that bad. You know, if I had $1 for every time someone said I was just being theatrical or hysterical, well, I'd be rich.
It's the same with mental health and everything else. You know, we don't talk about it, but we have to start talking about it. We have to start having these tough conversations.
Yeah.
100%. I want to thank Lindsay Gandy and, of course, Kimberly Bell for coming on, and me probably hogging way too much airtime. It's just a reporter in me, so I apologize. But they're coming back Thursday on the story you heard her mention, which is about Mamta Bhatt, who is missing. Her husband arrested on murder charges, and it's something that I haven't really covered, but they have extensively, and they're going to fill us in Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm actually speaking one-on-one with Suchir Balaji's mother. For those who do not know, this is a very disturbing story with I guess, little pieces of the Ellen Greenberg story embedded in it. Suchir Balaji was a whiz kid speaking in complex sentences at age 2. He built a computer at age 13. He grew up in Cupertino, California, the home of Apple computers, and he goes to work for OpenAI, and he blows the whistle on OpenAI about some of the bad practices. He speaks to the New York Times, and he ends up dead in his apartment. And the scene is very suspicious. And his mother is 100% convinced, even though it was called a self-unaliving. God, YouTube annoys me for having to say that. But she is 100% convinced and has hired a personal investigator and pathologist that it was, in fact, just a regular unaliving. And I'm one-on-one with her tomorrow. She did do an interview with Tucker Carlson that got a ton of traction, but I ain't no Tucker. But he does. I'm not going to make a comment there. Anyway, appreciate
Joel.
it. Yes, Lindsay.
We forgot something.
Oh, we forgot. It's a special day.
It's 7233. Sorry about that.
Yeah, the
I
DV
mistyped
hotline. Yeah, the DV hotline is there, but it's also Mr. Vinny Politan's birthday.
His birthday. He's also 29 today too. We have that in common.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Vinny. Vinny's grandmother's name is Carmela, and my mom, who is not Italian, her name is Carmela with a K. So every time Vinny sees Carm, they bear hug each other. But happy birthday to
happy birthday, Vinny.
Yes, happy
birthday,
37th birthday to Vinny Politan. He is the true goat and legend of true crime. If you guys appreciate the content, please hit the like button. Please sub. And the most important thing here is please take a look at the YouTube channel for Gabby Petito and the Gabby Petito Foundation. Nikki, you get the final word here. Where do people find out about the Gabby Petito Foundation? I assume at gabbypetitofoundation.org. Tell us about the YouTube channel and
all of our socials are Gabby Petito Foundation. So whether it's, FB, TT, whatever, they're all the same. And we have a lot going on. We have a new website launching soon called the Gabby Petito Alliance, and that's going to really be a hub for training and education programs, free for everyone. We want to be able to offer it to children and adults and communities. We're partnering with somebody called Purple One, and that's going to be community education to help people be better bystanders and to help focus on helping, domestic violence victims. We have our training program for first responders, but yes, go to the website. We have a store. You can buy Burn After Reading. You can buy Together We Can, all kinds of other stuff that we have. It all goes to the foundation. We are not funded by federal grants or anything like that. It's strictly funded by people like you, and we really appreciate it so we can do more work and continue what we're doing. So thank you.
And I just want to say that, we've established a pretty large platform here, thankfully, to an amazing community. So if we can ever help with our platform, the door is wide open always. And on a serious note, I hope I stay in touch with both of you and, develop a friendship, and we can help, work on all this stuff together. And I am personally very impressed with everything you guys had to say. And I want to thank Lindsay and Kimberly for allowing me to join them. And again, they'll be back. So with that, I will say, love you, America. Love you, Gabby Petito. And love you, Florida, the Washington, D.C. area, Florida, Jersey, and of course, Strong Island. Long Island.
Right.
And
thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
It was
Thanks,
awesome.
guys.
Guys,
Good
stick
night.
around for one second.
Okay.